and welcome to the program Talk Sport on, I beg your pardon, Business Point on Global Television. I am Samuel Odi. Many thanks for joining on today's edition of the program, as we tend to extract the world of business and have conversations on topical issues. Looking at it we started from the home front as always, and then we'll extend into the global market, where we're seeing tariffs affecting the entire globe as we speak now currently. And again, I'll be having a guest who will be joining me as we tend to extract and talk about the impact of AI on emerging economics. We'll be having those conversations in the second quarter of today's edition of Business Point. But now let me bring you up to speed with the current happenings, where Donald Trump tariffs set Nigerian stock market tanked and record largest drop in the last 3 months. Nigerian stocks took a steep dive on Monday as it escalates global tension fueled by Donald Trump's aggressive trade rhetorical and radical investor sentiment across emerging markets. The all-share index of Nigerian exchange record its worst single-day loss in nearly 3 months, shedding around 1,295.02 points to close at 104,216.87 points, down by 1.23%. That is a dip from the previous section close of 105,511.89 points. This marks the most significant jump since mid-January, when the index plugged by 1,526.1 points. Analysts are attributing the sell-off that only the local profits taken, but also to rise global uncertainty following Trump's announcement of sweeping reciprocal tariffs if re-elected, a move that threatens the unveiling fragile trade ties and raw global markets. The markets down reflects broader fears about how this protectionist policies could impact trade flows, foreign investments, and capital markets in developing economies like Nigeria. The typical sensitive to foreign portfolio movement responded with a wave of sell-offs, dragging down several heavyweight stocks. Despite the bearish sentiment, trading activities surged as volume jumped to 444.1 billion shares, up from 348.1 billion shares in the previous trading section. That many investors may be repositioning or exciting certain assessments. However, market capitalization suffered a deep, dropping below 66 trillion mark to settle at 65.4 trillion across 15,690 deals, compared to 66.1 trillion naira in the last section. Market capitalization and summary shows that the current ASI shows an opened at 104,216.87, previously at 105,511.89. Day change is minus 1.23%. Year-to-date performance is at plus 1.25%. Volume traded are 444.1 million shares, and market capitalization dipped and remains at 65.4 trillion naira. The market outlook in the long run shows that with the index falling below the psychological important 105,000 mark, investors are bracing for further volatility. The uncertainty from Trump's proposed tariff has cast a long shadow over the global equity, especially in frontier and emerging markets. However, analysts believe that the bargain hunting in large and mid-cap stock could offer some support if local fundamentals remain stable. Still, the sentiment remains fragile as Trump's tariff threatens add a new layer of geopolitical risks to also affect inflation weighing markets, while Nigerian investors will likely remain cautious while waiting and looking at the global cues alongside domestic earnings and microeconomic updates. On this note, still, we've seen that the market now is actually suffering a bearish trend based on the current tariffs that has been imposed by President Donald Trump and is having a ripple effect on our stock market. In the long run now, basically, we are going to be seeing how this is also going to affect the common man, because at the end of the day, it's also going to boil down to inflation. And we have a target for the year 2025 based on the budget that was released by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu that says that we are expecting to see inflation being capped to 15% come December 2025. On the other note now, we are still going to be looking at Nigerian Naira as it plugs to 1,629 Naira to a dollar at the official market despite CBN's $200 million intervention. The Naira fell sharply early hours of Monday morning, closing at 1,629 Naira to a dollar in the official foreign exchange market. This is according to the latest data published by the Central Bank of Nigeria. This represents a notable depreciation from 1,600 as of Friday and 1,569 as of Thursday last week, highlighting increasing pressure on domestic currency despite recent efforts by the Central Bank of Nigeria to stabilize the forex market. In the parallel market or black market, the Naira traded more favorably. Source told us that the currency exchange at 1,555 Naira on Monday is slightly stronger than 1,560 Naira observed as at Friday. So looking at all of this now, we've seen the Central Bank of Nigeria trying to step in and trying to make sure that there is a certain level of stability in the FX market, but still the Naira is biting hard and is suffering. We've seen the Central Bank of Nigeria investing last week around $197 million and then coming again to invest over around $200 million so as to have the Naira and then the markets, the FX market stabilized. But all of these things and all of these initiatives that is being introduced by the Central Bank of Nigeria is still biting hard on the economy and also biting hand on Nigerians. So questions are being asked, how long will this continue? Those questions are yet to be answered, but we'll be going on a quick break, and then when we return back, I'll be having the conversation with my guests on the impact of AI on emerging economies. Do stay with us, we'll be right back. Business Point on Global Television.
The business world can be dynamic and unpredictable, with headwinds and volatility sometimes becoming an obstacle for players in the business and economy landscape. Watch Business Point on Global Television as Samuel Oji walks you through the twists, turns and curves in bonds, stocks and crucial market indices from a global standpoint. Watch Business Point weekdays on Global Television at 11 a.m. West African time. Business Point. This is business.
joining now, this is still Business Point, and I am Samuel Odi. So now we're about to go into the second half where we'll be having a conversation on the impact of AI on emerging economies. I have with me in the studio a futurist, CEO, innovation strategist, and also the convener of the biggest festival of tech festival that happened in Abuja here in Nigeria in the year 2023 in the person of Mr. Light Isiulo, right? I got your Isiulo. Many thanks for joining us on today's edition of Business Point.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, so technology is something that is evolving on a daily basis, and we are seeing rapid spreads. We're seeing AI, and we're seeing other, platforms coming up that helps economies and all. So now let's venture more and pay more attention on AI and looking at the continent, Africa and Nigeria. Let's x-ray how it's going to help, grow and develop the economy. So my first question to you, Mr. Light, is how can emerging economy leverage AI and accelerate economic growth and development?
Okay, thank you so much. So, as we know, the AI space, a lot of people feel like the AI space is like just starting. But I strongly believe that AI has actually been there from inception, the whole process of automation and most of those. But then the strengths or the intellectual strengths of artificial intelligence of recent became really, really rampant and became really strong. We can see it in a lot of industries, cutting across the fintech space, the edutech, the even logistics space, even down to the finance sector and a lot of other industries. Artificial intelligence has actually been able to revolutionize the way people interact with technology to a very large extent. And the exciting thing is the part of automation, the fact that it actually simplifies the rate at which humans interact with systems. And structures.
Yes.
So that's actually one of the most exciting things about technology. So about artificial intelligence actually helping emerging technology, emerging economies, yes. We can also, of course, place the continent of Africa to be one of those continents that are still within this space of building global technological dominance. And of course, let's use Nigeria as a case study. Of course, there are a lot of countries in Africa that are really doing well. Even Nigeria too is doing well in the space of technology.
Yes.
But look at how the developed nations of the world has actually been able to leverage AI for a period of time now. Look at AI has actually been able to automate healthcare. There are a lot of diseases previously that people could possibly define as incurable diseases. Yeah. But right now, with AI diagnostic systems and structures, those diseases already have cures to them. Even the process of interacting with healthcare professionals yes. and most of those. Artificial intelligence now come into the scene and give you almost accurate predictive systems that could actually help you understand what is currently wrong with your health. So it's actually helping professionals in the healthcare space. So of course, just rest small while AI does
most of the work.
Actually, most of the work.
Okay.
So that's one of the things.
Okay, let's look at potential risks. As interesting as this conversation is going and how interesting AI is being so far, now definitely there would be potential some level of risk. So how can all of this be associated with AI adoption in emerging economy, and how can it be navigated and managed?
Okay. Good. So one of the major risks has actually been centered around privacy. Okay. Data privacy. A lot of data out there are basically consumed, and these data are used to train these models. And with this trained model, with these data that are used to train these models, that's how the models could actually provide information. So, I think there was this particular time of recent, I think sometime last year, that there were lots of issues revolving around how AI literally have already gained some level of consciousness where it could actually get information in real time without even human input at some level. But of course, that is not 100% exactly as it's simple. On the part of privacy, that's a very huge issue. In Africa and of course in developing nations of the world, one of the major hindrances to AI as well is also in infrastructure deficits. Let's use Nigeria as an instance. If you want to build or train very large models, that's AI models, we do not necessarily have all the necessary infrastructural systems that can actually train those models. That's one of the few limitations that we currently have. So one of the few things that I would possibly say is on the part of the government, I think the government should possibly step in right now, even though I know that the Ministry of Innovation and Digital Economy is currently pushing the AI revolution in Nigeria. But of course, that is still a little bit still on the surface level.
Yes.
But if we really want to take a very solid dominance in the space of AI, infrastructure is one of those things that we should possibly place a lot of priorities on. And of course, young tech startups like my company now, we build AI systems. That's Lognetics, we build AI systems. And I believe you should have seen the Netix AI project that we're currently working on.
Yes,
so
definitely.
Netix is basically just simplifying the way humanity actually interacts with technology. So imagine if other tech startups actually embrace the idea of artificial intelligence and one of those organizations that frontier this revolution. I strongly believe that Africa as a whole will possibly put themselves at the spotlight of technology globally.
Yeah, let's look at angles of addressing social and economic inequalities in Africa, which is very, very massive, and there's a whole lot of deficits on this sector. So AI is actually playing more roles. We've seen where individuals can earn a whole lot of money just from using AI applications. So there's this other part of social inequalities that's going on currently in Africa that, on a large extent, it's negative. So how can this be, addressed?
Okay, so on the part of social inequality, let me use the educational space as an instance. I strongly believe that if AI adoption becomes really rampant in Africa, the educational space is going to have a very solid revolution.
Okay.
And this is why I say so. Now, like while I was still very young, back then in school, there were some limitations that some of my teachers possibly had to express certain things. Right now, we can see graphical explanations and graphical illustration of certain things. Even AI can adapt to as much stress as possible compared to an actual teacher. So you actually learn a lot by engaging these AI systems, even in the educational space, even on the part of training models that understand as many languages as possible. So a single AI system can actually train students with multiple languages and give them that retentive ability to assimilate as many subject matters as possible. So in the educational space, I strongly believe that inequality can actually be modified or
given the fact that in Africa now we are having challenges around the educational sector. Okay, that makes a whole lot of sense. But now let's look at now job creation and job loss. Projection have said that AI is going to cause some level of job loss and also creates levels of jobs at the same time. So how feasible, and looking at the long run, how is this going to be sustainable for individuals?
Okay, so I would like to point this out on the part of I know there's a lot of argument revolving around
job loss and job
AI. A lot of people have lost their jobs when ChatGPT came out. A lot of people complained that as content writers, no company was actually hiring them again. Here's the exciting thing. Do you know currently with the advent of systems, like let's use the OpenAI system, which is the ChatGPT as an instance. A lot of people are currently self-employed. You can actually sit at the comfort of your home with just this AI system. You can build as many storylines or as many copies as possible, and you can even sell these materials. Because these systems think as almost closely like humans right now. And their vocabulary almost sounds as humanly possible as it should be. So on the part of job loss, I strongly believe that if AI is not properly managed well, a lot of people actually lose their job because a lot of things will be happening within the space of automation. But excitingly, AI has actually created more job opportunities compared to how well it has reduced the availability of jobs.
Okay, in the long run now, you're trying to say that AI now is actually a very good platform that can help accelerate and create jobs and then have people leave the streets and be able to be self-employed.
Most definitely.
Okay, let's look at this other this sector now. Competitiveness and sectors. You actually mentioned earlier about, diagnosis that AI could give. Let's leave health sector. Let's talk about the financial sectors and also look at SMEs that are looking to venture into businesses and having capital challenges. How can AI, navigate and also help them to, sort out issues like that?
Okay, so excitingly, our company Lognetics has built an AI system that could actually track your finances. Now, there are a lot of people, let me use maybe busy professionals for an instance, even market women. Most of the time, even as young people, we come back home on certain instances and then we are wondering, okay, I had X amount of money in my account, how did it reduce to this point? So a lot of people have the issue of tracking their finances. So with the advent of artificial intelligence within the financial sector, it has actually been able to track expenses that happen on a daily basis, and of course give you well-structured flow as to how your expenses should be managed. So on the part of health education, I think you highlighted education.
Yes.
Sorry. On
Health.
the part of
Health. Yes.
So on the part of health now, I think I've highlighted something about the health space, which is still an exciting space, because if AI chat systems could actually come into the entire scene, you don't necessarily have to go drive down to a hospital before you can get a proper diagnosis
yes.
of your health. So at the comfort of your home, all you just need to do is to pull up your device, or maybe your what do they call it? I think it's here on the space of telemedicine.
Yes.
All you just need to do is to pull off your applications, chat with an invisible yet smart and well-structured AI system, and all it does is that it gives you a proper diagnosis of your health in real time.
Yeah, you talked about infrastructure, and talking about the Ministry of Innovations and Strategies. How well do you think they should step in, and what initiatives do you think this ministry needs to create to help adaptation of AI?
Okay, so trust me, I strongly believe that the Ministry of Innovation and Digital Economy, they are currently doing something really good. I wouldn't want to say that there are some necessary inputs I would possibly want to counter on the inputs they've already put in. But the exciting thing is this. I strongly believe that if the government place more priority on the technological space, with the fact that Bosun Tijani's ministry is currently trying to push as much as possible AI into the faces of a lot of people in Nigeria. I strongly believe if the government place so much priority on it, the Nigerian tech space is going to take a very solid leap. So I just strongly believe that if the government places more priority on technology in Nigeria, let's use Nigeria as an example.
Yes.
I strongly believe that AI is going to take a very solid leap.
All right, Lights, thank you so much for joining us on today's edition of Business Point. But before I let you go, we know you have plans of another festival coming up shortly this year. Yeah, so what are the plans? Definitely Global Television will be there, and we'll be having some partnership, but we'll be discussing that later. So what's the plan, and what are we expecting to see?
Okay, so this year we want to actually pull off the largest ever recorded festival in technology in Africa. Okay. And of course, we're going to be having live displays of this AI system. It's a lot, because I'm actually a very huge fan of the aesthetics in tech. Yeah. Of course, the ambience that comes with the class and excellence that technology could actually bring. So we're hosting it in Nigeria, and we're doing it at the stadium, Velodrome, at the National Stadium. So it's going to be like one of the most exciting spaces, beyond just the whole talk shows and interactions and motivations that happen across different tech events. We're bringing in a separate kind of standard that both young people, the elderly, and a lot of really amazing people across multiple industries beyond just the tech space can actually come in and see in real time how these structural balances are created within the tech world, and of course a lot of other spaces. So this is basically what we are achieving with Explore 2025. All right, so that's what we should be expecting for Explore 2025. And I want to say again, very big thank you, Mr. Lights, for joining us on today's edition of Business Point. And this is how much time will permit us to take on today's edition of Business Point. My name is Samuel Odi. I'll see you again as we talk more business. Bye for now.